While there's still so little we know about space, it turns out there's so much we can learn about being on Earth from space. I sat down with Amy Shira Teitel to get this lesson. Amy writes about science and is a space flight historian. She told me there are 5 things we can take from space missions and apply to our own lives as we navigate the pandemic. The first tip, be prepared.
I mean, preparing like an astronaut, for me in my work, it's all about the 50s, which is the ultimate era, early 60s, when no one really knew what was happening in space. So preparation was really figuring out, okay, what is every worst case scenario we can imagine? And how can we have humans die the least in doing that? And I think when we're, which is, the blunt way to put it, but I think when we're facing something like this unknown pandemic and this, everything we don't know, we're very much in that same situation of we have no idea what we're doing. So let's figure out best guesses, best case scenarios, and work with that. And if something works, let's do more of that. As it doesn't work, let's maybe drop that. So preparing is really just about thinking through every possible thing and just being creative in problem solving.
The next one you say is stay calm. I try to stay calm here on planet Earth. Imagine trying to stay calm while you're orbiting the Earth. Yeah. Tell me how they do it.
That is, I'm honestly fascinated by astronaut psychology, because in space, especially if you're outside on a spacewalk and you look down, there's nothing, like your brain says it's a big hole. So, I mean, even thinking about it just weirds me out. But these guys and girls who do this, they are pro at kind of maintaining balance in their emotions and knowing to stay calm. And I think a lot of it for them is trusting, like, okay, my brain is telling me this, but I know from my training that this is not real, that this is, I am safe. I think for us now, it's all about staying calm and realizing that, like, as weird as things feel, and as much as, you go outside and it looks apocalyptic or it feels weird, that you have to kind of trust that this is actually the right move forward, that this is okay, and to not let the kind of shock of fewer people or, the sight of all the masks, like when it started, it was jarring.
Yeah.
We've trusted it, and we're able to stay a little bit calmer in the face of that.
It never occurred to me that you would have to sanitize in space, but I guess you have to.
Yeah, sanitizing in space is actually hugely important. In the Apollo era, they did quarantine before and after lunar missions because they didn't know if there was going to be like a moon plague that they would bring home. I mean,
not the moon plague.
How bad would it have been if they did, landed on the moon successfully and then they just went back home? Turns out there's like some little bug on the moon that just wipes out humanity. They still do a 2-week quarantine before every mission to give you that space where you're not exposed to germs so that you don't get sick. There's certain levels of clean rooms where you have to go in with like a full bunny suit and a mask and a head so that your dandruff doesn't get in the spacecraft and guck up any of the mechanisms. We're not that intense in our own homes, obviously, but there's still the idea of just taking that extra step to make sure that you're introducing as few unknowns into the system. In space, it's a spacecraft system. For us, it's our bodies and our home system.
Right.
You've got these guys going to the moon, which is extremely far away and scary. And talking all day kind of makes it feel a bit more normal and routine. Mm-hmm. They did morning briefings every day, including things like local sports scores. And it was just that connectivity to home in a way that kind of allowed them to retain some kind of normalcy. They would have, updates from the kids at camp, beamed up to them on the moon and stuff. So there is this idea of kind of taking that time to recognize where you are, but not losing that connection to the people that are important to you. And I think as we're all kind of in our own isolations, it's important to stay connected with friends, but also take the time that you have alone to kind of think through whatever it is that helps you kind of stay grounded.
This last part is really interesting to me because it kind of encapsulates space and our understanding of it, which is look to the future.
Yeah. And I think we all need that right now. I mean, the mantra I keep hearing people is like, we'll get through this. We'll get through this. Right. And it's really that idea that, things are different and things might be different for a while, but we will still get through this. And astronauts in bad situations, they've trained, they know it, they can visualize getting home and figure out how to work a problem. We're all in this prolonged state of working the problem, in the hope of, looking towards the future and knowing that we'll get out of this on the other side.
We will get out of this on the other side. Her name is Amy Shira Teitel. The name of her latest book is called Fighting for Space, 2 Pilots and Their Historic Battle for Female Spaceflight. I mean, when you think about the moon plague, it almost makes COVID seem like a walk in the park.
Yeah.